If you're spending weeks teaching your dog to sit on a mat while the doorbell rings, or months trying to counter-condition them to the postman, I'm going to be honest with you, you're wasting your time. I don't mean that to have a go at you, I mean it because I see this every single day. People come to me exhausted. They've been trying everything, watching the videos, reading the books, trying different methods, and still the dog is pulling on the lead, barking at everything, jumping on guests, destroying the house, and they feel like they are getting absolutely nowhere. And here's what it feels like. You fix one thing, now something else pops up. You stop the counter surfing, now he's fence fighting. You fix the fence fighting, now he's chewing the skirting boards. It's like playing behavioral whack-a-mole, and you're losing. The reason this is happening is because you've got your focus completely backwards. There's a concept called the 80-20 rule. 20% of inputs create 80% of results. It shows up everywhere. 20% of clients bring 80% of revenue. 20% of habits create 80% of your health. 20% of effort creates 80% of outcomes. And dog training is no different. Most dog owners, and honestly most trainers as well, spend 80% of their time on the 20% that barely matters. They get obsessed with tiny isolated behaviors, the jumping, the barking, the pulling, and they try to fix each one like it's its own separate problem. So they're constantly reacting, constantly correcting, constantly chasing the next issue. All the little behaviors, all the surface level stuff, all the symptoms. But here's what they don't realize. Those behaviors are just expressions of a deeper state. A dog that's understimulated will find stimulation. A dog that's over-aroused will explode at triggers. A dog with no outlet will create its own. So while you're busy trying to stop the barking at the window, the dog is still wired. While you're trying to fix the pulling, the dog is still frustrated. While you're teaching place for the 50th time, the dog is still unfulfilled. For example, if someone comes to me and says, my dog jumps on guests, he steals socks, he barks at the window, he pulls on the lead, he won't drop the ball, and they want to fix all of it individually. But the truth is, if I trained like that, we'd be working together for the next 5 years and nothing would actually change. Because those behaviors, they are not the problem, they're the symptom. They're the result of a dog that is unfulfilled, overstimulated, underworked, and mentally chaotic. So instead of chasing 20 different problems, focus on just 2 things. The first thing, and the most important, is recall, because recall gives your dog freedom, and freedom gives your dog something most dogs never get: a chance to actually be a dog. Think about it. Most dogs live their entire lives on a lead, being told where to go, how fast to walk, what they can and can't interact with. They never get to run properly, they never get to explore properly, they never get to switch their brain off and just exist. So what happens? That energy builds, that frustration builds, that tension builds, and it comes out somewhere. In the house, on the lead, at every single trigger. A dog that can run, explore, and move freely is a dog that can finally release that energy the way it was designed to. And when you fulfill a dog like that, absolutely everything changes. Not slowly, not after months of micromanaging behavior, but fast. Because you're not fighting against the dog anymore. You're working with its nature. They stop doing the most annoying stuff, not because you trained it out of them, but because they don't need to do it anymore. The counter surfing disappears because they feel tired and are fulfilled. The barking at the window fades because they're not sitting there wired all day. The pulling on the lead reduces because they've already had an outlet. You're not suppressing behavior, you're removing the reason for it to exist in the first place. And this is where most people get it wrong. They try to train a calm dog without ever giving the dog a reason to be calm. Recall is what unlocks that, because once you can trust your dog to come back, you can give them the freedom that actually fixes the root of the problem. The second thing is play, but not the way most people do it. Not mindlessly throwing a ball while you're scrolling on your phone. That's not engagement. That's just burning a bit of energy with zero connection. And this is where most people completely miss it. They think exercise and fulfillment are the same thing. They're not. A dog can chase a ball for an hour and still come back wired, frustrated and more obsessed than before, because nothing about that taught the dog how to regulate itself. Nothing about that built a relationship with you, and nothing about that created control. I'm talking about structured play. For example, a game of tug that is interactive, high energy, with you fully involved, where the dog is focused on you and not the environment, because when you play properly, you're fulfilling their natural drives to chase, to bite, and to win. You're giving them an outlet for the exact behaviours they're trying to express in all the wrong ways. The chasing they do on the lead, the biting and grabbing, the intensity around other dogs, you channel all that into something controlled. But this is the key part most people miss. You're not just hyping the dog up, you're teaching control inside that arousal. Start the game, stop the game. Dog goes too far, game ends. Dog listens, game continues. Now the dog learns something powerful. My behavior controls access to what I want. And over time, that turns into, I can be excited, I can be intense, but I still have to listen. That's where real obedience comes from. Not from drilling commands in a low distraction living room, but from teaching the dog to listen when it actually matters. When it's switched on, when it's driven, when it's alive. That's how you create a dog that doesn't just obey, but chooses to stay engaged with you no matter what's going on around it. So when you combine solid recall and structured play, you get a fulfilled dog, a calm dog, a dog that actually listens, and suddenly 80% of your problems disappear. Now I can hear all of you typing all your objections in the comments, but my dog is reactive, I can't let them off the lead, they go crazy during play. That's exactly the point. Those are the symptoms of a dog that has no proper outlet. No clarity, no way to release what it's feeling. So what do most people do? They tighten the lead, they avoid situations, they try to control every step, every look, every action, and it feels like you're doing the right thing because you're preventing the explosion in the moment. But underneath all of that, the pressure is building, keeping a reactive dog on a short lead, trying to micromanage every movement, correcting every little thing and avoiding every trigger. You're basically building a pressure cooker, and eventually it will explode. That's why your dog goes from 0 to 100 fast. That's why it feels unpredictable. That's why it feels like nothing is sticking, because you're never actually changing the internal state of the dog. You're just containing it. And containment is not the same as resolution. When I say you need recall, when I say you need structured play, it's not just about obedience. It's about giving that dog a controlled way to release energy, express drive, and then come back down again under your guidance. That's how you start to diffuse the pressure cooker. Not by tightening control, but by giving the dog the right kind of freedom with structure behind it. So the best thing to do for your dog is to find space somewhere quiet, where your dog isn't constantly being triggered. You need an environment where you can actually teach, not just survive the walk. Using a long line is your best friend. Not to restrict the dog, but to give controlled freedom. Let them move, explore, make decisions, but still have that safety net so you're not losing control. You also really have to build recall properly. Don't just call your dog and hope for the best. Make it valuable, make it consistent, reward it, reinforce it, and show the dog that coming back to you is always the best option, no matter what is going on. And lastly, build engagement through play. Become the most interesting thing in your dog's world. Use structured play to create focus, intensity, and connection so the dog starts choosing you over their environment. And here is the key. You're not rushing this. You're building a foundation, because once those pieces are in place, everything else becomes easier. Drain the cup first. Get the energy out. Get the frustration out. Give the dog what it actually needs first. Then, and only then, do you start layering in the obedience, the boundaries, and behavior work before you try to put anything new into it. Now, this is why I advocate for the e-collar when used properly. And I need to be clear on that, because People hear the word e-collar and instantly jump to the worst possible conclusion. They imagine abuse, they imagine laziness, they imagine someone shocking a dog into submission because they can't be bothered to train properly. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about a shortcut. I'm not talking about skipping a relationship, skipping engagement, and skipping the work. I'm talking about an insurance policy, a layer of accountability, a way to back up your training in the real world when the stakes are high. Because the reality is, you are not getting reliable off-lead recall on a high-drive dog in a distracting environment with just treats. You might get it in the house, you might get it in the garden, you might even get it in a quiet field on a good day. But when that rabbit moves, when that dog appears, when the environment becomes more rewarding than you, that's when most people realize they don't actually have recall. They've got hope. And hope is not recall. Hope is not control. Hope is not safety. And that's the part people don't like hearing. Because everyone wants to believe the dog will choose them in that moment. But if your training has no consequence for blowing you off and no real way to reinforce the command at distance, then you're gambling. You're trusting that the dog will make the right choice when every instinct in its body is pulling it somewhere else. That's exactly why the e-collar matters when it's introduced properly and conditioned properly. It gives you a way to communicate at a distance. It gives the dog clarity. It gives the command meaning, even when you're not stood right next to the dog with a lead in your hand. And most importantly, it allows you to give the dog more freedom, not less. That's the whole point, because I don't want dogs living their whole lives on a lead. I want them running, I want them exploring, I want them fulfilled. But I also want the owner to know that when they say come back, the dog comes back. Not maybe, not sometimes, not when it feels like it, every single time. That reliability changes everything. Because once you have that, you can stop micromanaging, you can stop panicking, you can stop living in fear of the next distraction. Now the dog gets freedom. Now the owner gets confidence. Now the training becomes real. The e-collar allows you to give freedom safely, create clarity, and build reliability. And when you combine that with fulfillment, play, and proper structure, you don't just get a dog that listens, you get a dog that can actually live. Stop trying to fix everything. Stop chasing symptoms. Stop playing behavioral whack-a-mole. Focus on the 20% that actually matters. Fulfill the dog, build recall, build play, and watch everything change. If you want to learn exactly how I do this, how I build bulletproof recall, how I use play to transform behavior, click the link in the description to book a call, and I'll see you in the next one.